Hello, everybody. Think back to the early days of the internet. Everything had to start somewhere. Like memes, for example. The timeline of memes is a chilling and telling documentation of the effects that society has on society. You know, we weren't always using Wojaks and Pepes. We were using troll faces and Me Gustas and Obama. I guess he was a meme. Me when fucking drone strikes? Bruh. Memes started off with this simple dancing baby. No top text, no Instagram watermark, just the meme. And from there, an entire culture was grown around memes to the point where it's in Wendy's commercials and being weaponized by Twitter accounts to promote Chinese spyware. But the same can be said for pretty much everything. I mean, you see, this dancing baby, it was just the first step. It showed that the internet was more than just a tool. It was a source for entertainment. And the internet went from a new piece of technology that many thought to just be a fad to the best place to go for content. And it shows because one of the most visited websites on the entire internet is YouTube. I don't need to explain the history of YouTube. It's a tale as old as time. But obviously, YouTube would face massive changes all throughout its life cycle.
What a fucking
good YouTuber.
You see, it started off as a place where people could go and just archive videos, but eventually some of those videos would pick up traction and become viral. And with that, many people would go to YouTube to check out these viral videos. And while virality doesn't bring fame for most, for some, it does. And as time progressed, YouTube would become arguably the best place to go anywhere for entertainment. I mean, on-demand content for free on whatever subjects you want. It's kind of like porn. Only it's not. And as YouTubers found success, others would try to find ways to replicate it. You see, being a gluttonous loser is typically the best way to achieve success online. But an early innovation that started years ago that's still used to this day is the Content House. A central location, typically a large home in which many content creators get together, live together, and make content. It's genius. I mean, it hardly ever works, but it is a good idea. And all ideas come from somewhere, so where did the Content House come from? Typically, when talking about Content Houses, the first one that a lot of people think of is Team Crafted, headed by world-renowned paranoid schizophrenic Sky Does Minecraft. However, Team Crafted, while they are one of the first content houses ever, wasn't actually the first, as the Creature Hub would technically be the first one to take this title. The channel was created in 2011, 2 years before Team Crafted's channel was created. Not to mention, the group would move into their first house together in 2012. But look, we're getting way too ahead of ourselves here. I mean, who are the creatures? This is a video about Couch Hop, right? Well, Couch Hop is a YouTube channel that has its roots in a channel called the Creature Hub, colloquially known as the Creatures. So I'm not gonna go through the entire history of the Creatures. It's already been done before.
Oh, FXK, hasn't the rise and fall of Couch Hop been done before too?
Yes, motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. I'm gonna do it a different way, okay? You'll see. Shut the fuck up. Also, real quick, like the video and subscribe. I haven't given you a reason to, but do it anyway. Also, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Do you think I'd survive in the hood? I would guess probably not. To be honest, I did watch a good amount of the Creatures videos, but I wasn't like a huge fan or anything. I was more familiar with certain individuals in the Creatures, so forgive my ignorance when speaking on some of these people. The Creature Hub, before it was a house or even a channel, was just a group of friends. Kutra and Spoonerism being the two most prominent before their inception. Kutra was very well known for his Call of Duty machinimas, which, by the way, they're really good. Wow, I can almost tell what I'm looking at here. Spoonerism, on the other hand, was mainly known for Let's Plays, and apparently he made machinimas too. I can't fucking find it, but it's on the internet, so it's probably true. The other members were Gassy Mexican, Chilled Chaos, Z-Royal Viking, and Junkyard 192. I'm just gonna be completely honest, these people are not important to the story, because I mean, Junkyard 192 was old as shit, so they told him to fuck off. And Chilled Chaos left before they even moved into a house because he was worried that it would become too much of a business. Just a little bit of foreshadowing, he was totally right about everything. But on top of retaining their core group of Kutra, Gassy Mexican, Z-Royal Viking, and Spoonerism, they would also bring in Dan's News, who was another prominent face in the YouTube machinima sphere, as well as a key player in this video, James, or Uber Haxor Nova. Now, the exact details and timeline, once again, are not important to the overall video, but the Creature Hub would face a problem in which many of the creatures would struggle to coexist. Eventually, after setting up home base in Denver, Colorado, some of the members would start to have issues with each other, because I guess a lot of them lacked the etiquette that is required to share a house with other people. I mean, what do you expect? It's a house full of fucking content creators, so. And over time, people would begin to leave and distance themselves from the creatures, and these gaps would obviously need to be filled, so as people left, new people came in. And they would begin introducing more fellow YouTubers into the content, a notable one being Immortal HD, otherwise known as Alex. Alex was slowly integrated into the content before becoming an official member in 2013. Now, this is where I want to start focusing on two individuals in particular, and these guys were actually the two YouTubers I watched the most, that being Uber Haxor Nova and Immortal HD, otherwise known as James and Alex. It's hard to remember the first video I saw with Alex and James together, but the one I remember the most was their Minecraft Let's Play, Kingdom of the Monsters. This was a very common Let's Play style for Minecraft YouTubers, by the way, where you would download these RPG maps and pretty much play them like standalone games. James and Alex would frequently collaborate with each other, and the roots of Cow Chop began to grow. You see that? We finally got to the subject of the video, all right? It only took like fucking 27 minutes. As I mentioned earlier, many prominent figures left the Creature Hub. A major reason for this was the involvement that Dan, and more specifically Kutra, had in running the business. I mean, Chilled Chaos left because he didn't want it to become a business. Gassy Mexican left because he was voted out of the group for not contributing enough to content, and this was a decision that was ultimately conducted by Dan and Kutra. Other members I haven't mentioned are people like Dexter, who was kind of censored from the content. In fact, one of the most infamous moments in Creature's history was when Dexter walked off set on a podcast because he was just so fed up with how everyone was treating him. And other members like Seamus, for example, left because he was so dissatisfied with the way that the entire organization was being run. And of course, Alex and James would also have issues with the Creatures. Alex already had plans to leave the Creatures and only stayed because James convinced him otherwise. Also, Alex, by the way, was being paid like pretty much nothing, even though he had like one of the most popular channels at that point. On top of this, the Creatures wanted to move into a more of a family-friendly direction, whereas Alex and James, they wanted to do the exact opposite. They wanted to do more insane and adult-oriented content. There was also this issue where Kutra had broken a rule against workplace relationships. See, Kutra had started dating another Creatures employee by the name of Stephanie. To be fair, I only really found this brought up like one time. I mean, maybe there's other instances, but I mean, this screenshot seems to indicate that it was very frustrating for James. But anyways, clearly Alex and James would have their own issues and would quietly separate from the Creatures. And soon after, Cow Chop would be announced on the 1st of April. They would begin filming episodes for Cow Chop in the Creatures office. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this, by the way. The Creatures moved out of a house and then moved into an office. I probably should have brought that up. Anyways, like I said, they were filming videos in the Creatures office for about a month. And the reason they did this is because they still had obligations to fill with the Creatures, and you know, they wanted to be there to be able to film with them as well as do their own shit with Cow Chop. And since they were still there in the Creatures videos and in the office, everyone just assumed that Cow Chop was kind of like an offshoot of the Creatures. But after a few uploads, they would go on live stream and make it clear that they are no longer a part of the Creatures and that Cow Chop is completely different. Up until this point, there wasn't much clarity on what had happened, but during this live stream, all would become clear. You know, the things I had mentioned earlier with the lack of creative freedom and the change in content direction and the dissatisfaction with management, all that stuff. But on the bright side, James would say that this was the most stress-free that he had been in a long time. And once they left, James and Alex would team up with Aaron, Joe, and Trevor to create Cow Chop. Aaron and Joe were interns for Creatures and they just went over to Cow Chop. As far as Trevor, he was never actually hired by the Creatures directly, but he did do freelance work there for about a month. They would also bring in Brett, who had previous experience with the Machinima Network YouTube channel, and he would be kind of a behind-the-scenes manager, but he would also be very involved in the content. And once all of their obligations with the Creatures were done, they moved out of the office and into a small house. And so begins the House Era.
Cell phone shit, think they really ready. I swear to Akinelli. I spit that flow that be harder than 20 Machiavellis.
The House Era is considered by many to be the golden age of Cow Chop, and in a sense, they're probably right. I mean, this was Cow Chop at its purest form. The boys had a newfound freedom in which they definitely exercised it. But before we get into the timeline, I just want to introduce all of you to the members of Cow Chop first. Let's start with James. Most of the Cow Chop crew are either mentally ill, absolutely brain dead, or both. But make no mistake, James is completely lucid. And despite that, and the fact that he's pretty much the leader of Cow Chop, he's not the straight man that you'd think him to be. James is arguably the most destructive and chaotic member of Cow Chop, at least before they hired Jacob. And why is this? Well, it's very simple. James is fucking evil.
I used to relate to Chucky a lot. Why, are you afraid of everything? Like he was, that's his character. He's a little bitch, little pussy boy. That's what he is. And then you just said his fucking mom died too. He's got no mom. Oh, wait, you mean, oh.
One of my favorite things that James does is he starts fucking with everybody, and then when people start fucking with him back, he tells everyone to stop, only for him to resume fucking with everybody again.
Throw it on my nose.
This is not how you treat a house. Oh, stop.
This is a very common trope with James, as he essentially blames everyone for things that are the byproduct of his actions. Next up is Alex.
I like it when little kids upload videos, though.
Alex is my favorite Couch Shop employee for sure. He's kind of like the village idiot of the group.
Do you guys do Valenzuela style?
Who?
A Valenzuela style pizza. Valenzuelan style.
What is Valenzuela?
Oftentimes he'll accidentally say extremely racist things.
I want some wetbacks, you cunt.
Alex also oftentimes has difficulty pronouncing words or even finishing coherent sentences.
Top of the Couch Shop to you guys. We're back on the YouTube search, Dark Side of YouTube show.
And he frequently has an expression on his face that indicates a severe addiction to morphine.
Yo, I licked your door trying to lick this.
He also has an extreme dislike for having his face touched or covered in substances, which probably explains why everyone is constantly throwing shit at his face.
I fucking hate shit on my face, James. I fucking hate shit on my face, dude. It's all on my fucking face.
We also have Brett. Imagine a mental asylum with the most mentally fucked people as possible. Okay, great. Now imagine that the owner is not only responsible for everybody, but he's also the most insane. That's what Brett is. Brett Hundley, better known as Hundar, was the bronze and the brain of the group.
What the fuck, Brett?
But oftentimes Brett would slip into a state that would put the average white woman to shame, destroying everything in his path. You see, James is evil. There is intent behind his destruction, whereas Brett is just a deranged lunatic. There is no rhyme nor reason to anything that he does. Just pure unmedicated bouts of severe psychosis. But oddly enough, Brett would still manage to be the voice of reason and positive influence for the other members.
If you want to be the center of attention, come drink the cocaine off the table.
He was known for his high tolerance of spicy foods and his appreciation for Malort, a delectable and delicious bottle of liquor that Brett holds in high regards.
Oh, there's like an embalming fluid.
Anyways, we're gonna blow through these last three because they kind of all fit the same role. But let me tell you, these boys were special, okay? Don't get it twisted. The other three were Joe, Aaron, and Trevor, and these guys were kind of the punching bags of the group.
We're all dying here and we're suffering.
And don't get me wrong, everyone got hurt and fucked with and made fun of, like, plenty, but these guys definitely got it the worst. And as we progress through the story, we're gonna realize that these dudes actually did get it pretty rough. Joe served as a cameraman and editor, and fun fact, he was even like a childhood friend of James. He originally went to Colorado to work with James at the Creatures, and when James wanted to move, he said, "I'm going with you." Joe is a very sweet guy, and he put up with a lot of shit and was willing to do pretty much anything for a bit. He even buzzed all his hair off after 2 years of growing it because he failed to do the rock diet challenge, a challenge that most humans couldn't do. Aaron was also an editor and cameraman for Couch Shop. Aaron was the diversity hire of the group, as his main bit was being called Asian by everyone else.
Here's your fork. And here's your other fork.
All right,
so you can use it like chopsticks.
Aaron, much like Joe, put up with a lot of shit and he took it like a champ. And he also had plenty of funny moments as well. A fun fact about Aaron is that he originally got in contact with the Creatures after he played a game of League of Legends with Alex. Next up is Trevor. Trevor. My sweet boy, Trevor. Trevor, much like the last two guys, was an editor and cameraman. Trevor was a fan favorite of the Couch Shop audience, and a lot of people connected with him because, you know, he was young and he was shy, just like a lot of the people that watched his content. There are many things that I do want to say about these guys that I can't really get into right now, so just bear with me, because these guys are extremely important to the rise and fall of Couch Shop. So now that we know the 6 original members of Couch Shop, I mean, what was Couch Shop? I mean, what did they do at the house? What was their content? Like I said, the house is considered by many to be the golden age, and I mean, this is where they established their content style. They would do really high effort Let's Plays where they would, you know, dress up as these weird characters and create their lore, and they even did skits to start off the episodes. They would also create 2 very beloved series during the house era. That was The Wrong Side of YouTube and Amazon Primetime. Amazon Primetime was this show where James and Alex would get each other mystery gifts from Amazon and give them to each other. And you know, I gotta give them props. They were able to take really shitty gifts and make really interesting content with them. Like the first episode, for example, where they get a circumcision kit and learn how to do circumcisions, which I don't think I can show on my channel, but it does exist. The Wrong Side of YouTube was also a really good idea. It was kind of like a reaction series, but with a twist. You see, this was a time when reaction content was frowned upon. The Jinx Reloaded Content Cop had just come out like a few months prior. But what was great about The Wrong Side of YouTube is that they weren't just watching popular videos, they were actually doing the opposite. They'd go into the search engine and just type in random words and see what came up. And they would always find these weird gems on YouTube of these super small YouTubers. I mean, it's genius. There's so many weirdos on this platform that you can farm content from. Something that was also really cool about CouchUp is they seem to be able to just take nothing and turn it into something. Like one of the first videos that they did at the house, James just bought a 55-gallon barrel of lube and was like, hey, let's make a video out of this. What was his plan? There was no plan. He just thought it would be funny. I mean, their most popular video is literally them testing the effectiveness of a defective oven mitt. And they were doing great. People loved the content, but they were uploading daily and they needed to bring in more people in order to get content out at a consistent rate. They would then hire 2 more editors, Anna and Asher, and these 8 would continue to make content together. Throughout their time in the house, they did many things that are more than likely illegal. If not, they at the very least violated whatever contract they signed with the owner. And it was only a matter of time before somebody snitched. The snitch is referred to as the and when I was checking the banned words list on YouTube, I found out that the word isn't allowed, which is fucking stupid because I say retard all the time and I feel like that word's way worse than is. Anyways, the would somehow find a way to get in contact with the owner of the house and he would inform them of what they were doing there.
Oh, what did they do, FXK? Was it that bad?
No. Whatever you're thinking, it's fucking way worse. Alex, epic military stink bomb prank. In this video, Alex receives a package containing a military grade stink bomb. However, before he even opens it, it begins to smell really bad, so he hides it on the roof. Other CouchUp employees smell it and become suspicious, and as people are walking in and out of the house, Alex decides he needs to remove it from the roof and spring into action. So he douses an entire sweatshirt with the stink bomb liquid. He then throws the sweatshirt into the editor's room with James, Joe, and Trevor inside. Brett also happens to be there on the roof. I'm pretty sure Alex just told him to be there because it seems too convenient otherwise. The 3 boys escape to a small section of the roof with Brett, but as Trevor is escaping, Alex throws the disgusting sweatshirt onto him, causing him to smell like shit, in which he's forced to get rid of his contaminated jacket. So Alex brings the stink bomb jacket outside and throws it onto the roof where the boys are seeking refuge. Brett picks it up with his bare hands, causing him to also stink.
Nice toss, you.
Trevor begins spraying the entire house with Febreze as if that would do anything but cause sensory overload. But then they start spraying each other with Febreze. Alex then discovers a small turd on the bathroom floor. They begin to look for Aaron and find him in the other bathroom. He refuses to let anyone in which Brett threatens to kick the door down.
Aaron, I'll kick through the door.
Brett then begins to kick the door down. He eventually succeeds and recreates The Shining. As to why he felt the need to do this, it's kind of unknown, but it probably has something to do with the unmedicated psychosis I mentioned earlier. Trevor then picks up the turd and starts shoving it in people's faces. Alex then reveals his dastardly prank and shows the bottle of stinky liquid. All-out warfare commences and Trevor tries to grab the bottle in an attempt to get back at Alex. War is waged before the bottle drops and breaks to the floor. End scene. Now, you'd probably think that this video would be more than enough to get them kicked out of the house, and you'd be 1000% right about that. But I decided to compile a quick list of all of the things that they did in this house that also probably contributed to them getting kicked out. Throwing food all over the house, filling a bathtub with milk and cereal, setting an oven mitt on fire, setting an iPhone on fire, setting a pot full of garbage on fire, lighting fireworks inside of the house, shooting windows with BBs, destroying a screen door in a Master Chief suit, destruction of a repair site, playing with shit from their leaking septic system, throwing the shit that they got from the leaking septic system at each other, gathering loose water from the leaking septic system and squirting each other with it, stabbing cabinets and walls with sharp objects, constantly screaming in the middle of the night, and ramming a giant dick through a door. And this is just the stuff that I remember. There's probably other shit that I just couldn't think of. They did replace all the doors they destroyed, they fixed all the holes, and they repaired all of the damages. But regardless, it was only a matter of time before somebody got killed, or worst of all, they burned the house down. And the company who owned the property instructed the landlord kick them out. They're done. You see, this fucked with a lot of plans because they were planning to move to Los Angeles once the lease was up. But that wasn't for a few more months, and they didn't have everything lined up in Los Angeles yet. So they would have to find a new home base. They would temporarily film in James's house, and they only really filmed 4 videos there. The most notable video filmed in James's house was an episode of Amazon Primetime where they got a toilet board game thing, and you're supposed to fill it with water, but I guess they were all out of water and all they had was bleach, so they used that instead. But after this 4-day period, they would move into a barn. I'm not even joking. Fuck. There's not much to really say about the barn era, and I don't want this video to be 39 years long, so I'm just gonna give you a few quick facts. Fact number 1, the barn used to be a meth lab. Fact number 2, there was no heating in the barn. This barn, by the way, was in Denver, Colorado, and they stayed here for mostly the winter, so it was really fucking cold. Fact number 3, there's not that many facts about the barn era, but an intern by the name of Jorel? I don't even fucking remember that guy. Jorel would be introduced, along with Stan, who is a goldfish. He's dead. That fish is dead. But in April of 2017, it was finally time to move to Los Angeles. Jorel would not be making the trip as he'd stay in Colorado to take care of the fish. And this is where the warehouse era began.
I might shoot my shot at LMA. Oh, y'all thought this was a joke. I did not follow directions, bitch. I made it on my own.
The warehouse was a large warehouse located in sunny Los Angeles, California, otherwise known as the 4th worst place to be in America. The warehouse era was the longest era, and the warehouse was the final destination for Cow Chop. It would also be where we say goodbye to our first real employee. Aaron would not be joining them on the trip to Los Angeles as he just didn't want to move. However, in the next few months, they would bring in replacements, Lindsay and Jacob, and they would do a lot of the same things Aaron would do, editing and camera work. The content was pretty similar, but the main difference was that the quality was better because they had more people working there and they had more room to work, but they hadn't changed and their vision for content was the same. During this era, they would continue a lot of their main series, like their Let's Plays. They would continue to do challenge videos and Wrong Side of YouTube and Amazon Primetime. They'd even start new series like my personal favorite, Cow Chop Food Lab and Test Kitchen. Food Lab and Test Kitchen was just a cooking show where they would battle each other and try to make the best recipes, and they'd sabotage each other, and each week there was a theme, and each week there was a celebrity guest judge.
Everybody, it's Burger Clown! Burger Clown, over here.
Is this me?
Yeah, it's
This is
Burger
me.
Clown, everybody.
Okay.
What the fuck is this?
Obviously, none of them were actually celebrities. It was just whoever was free dressed up as some random character. And the reason I love this series so much is because it's pure Cow Chop. It's funny, it's disgusting, it's scuffed, it takes itself way too seriously. People are dressing up and doing bits and characters and all this stuff. This is what Cow Chop was. Just a bunch of grown adults acting like children, and it was fucking awesome. Okay, so here's where I break the fourth wall a little bit. This is more than just a rise and fall, okay? This is an advertisement. If you haven't seen Cow Chop yet, I want you to experience it organically. So I don't want to get too in detail with the highlights and all the shows they did and my favorite videos and all this stuff, but I am gonna put a playlist in the description of all of my favorite Cow Chop videos so you can kind of get a gateway and see if it's a channel that you want to explore more, which by the way, it definitely is. It's great content and there's plenty of it. I'm making this video because Cow Chop was fucking awesome. It was a strange time because this was around the time where adpocalypses were changing the format and landscape of the entire platform, and lots of YouTubers were changing their content or just leaving the platform altogether because of these changes. But Cow Chop was one of those channels that just, they kept pushing forward. They were still gonna set shit on fire. They were still gonna break shit and get hurt because that's what Cow Chop was. It was nonsensical, it was unfiltered, and it was chaotic. And to step into that box that YouTube was trying to put so many creators into would be the death of the channel. Obviously, this is something I'm really passionate about, so I promote you to check out the channel after this video. But that's kind of why I want to focus mainly on the timeline for this section, because there are a lot of great moments during this era that I want you to experience. But the problem with the warehouse era is that this is where the fall would begin. So Aaron left Cow Chop before they even moved into the warehouse, but after that, they maintained their core group for a pretty long time. That is up until November 2017, where Joe would announce that he was going to be stepping away away from Cow Chop to finish his degree and focus on raising a family. Shortly after, Anna, who was a part of the House era, would leave in February of 2018 to help her sister through her pregnancy. And shortly after that, Cow Chop would receive its biggest blow yet. After an indefinite hiatus, on April 30th of 2018, it would be announced that Trevor, my sweet boy, would be leaving Cow Chop. This one was devastating for a lot of people. I mean, everyone loved Trevor. And it would only get worse because a little later on this video, we're gonna find out that Trevor actually did not have that much fun with Cow Chop. But at this point, you might be noticing something. People are leaving and people are coming in, which is a very similar issue that the Creatures faced as well. They would bring in new faces like Matt and John and Alec, but regardless, Cow Chop's rapid loss of members would only continue to worsen. Asher would eventually be let go due to inconsistent workflow and just not being cordial with his work in general. But the failing state of Cow Chop was overlooked for some time, and that's mainly because the content was still great. Alex and James were killing it still, and the people that they brought in did a really good job. But if you haven't noticed, we're done talking about the rise. Now it's time for the fall. Cow Chop's YouTube channel reached an impressive amount of subscribers, almost 940,000 of them. However, it would never reach a higher point than that, as they would slowly start to bleed subscribers afterwards, going from their peak on March 17th, 2019 to under 900K by August, losing nearly 50,000 subscribers in the span of half a year. But what happened? Well, like I said, there was a fall. On January 18th, a video was uploaded to the channel called James Goes to the Hospital. Essentially what happened is James was trying to skateboard down a ramp, but he grabbed a chain behind him that likely caused an awkward fall. It's also believed that during this fall, he dislocated his shoulder. However, he was not done. After being told, "Hey James, don't grab the chain," he dropped down a second time and grabbed the chain. He fell a lot harder this time, and I'm not going to show the video, but he fucked up his ankle really bad. And if his shoulder wasn't dislocated before, it definitely was dislocated now. This was somehow the first injury in Cow Chop history, or at least it was the first injury serious enough that warranted medical attention at a hospital. Something that's pretty fucked up about this particular video is that, like, James is laying on the ground and everyone's just kind of standing there and looking at him. Now, this is probably because normally when people would fall, they would kind of play it up a little bit and pretend they were more hurt than they really were. So I understand initially not realizing that he was actually really hurt, but to be fair, he was on the ground for way longer than I've seen anyone else in Cow Chop history. And it wasn't until Alex came over and immediately recognized that James was actually like really hurt, and he was like, "Hey, you should probably go to the hospital." And so they take him to the hospital. They relocate his shoulder. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but they would also find out that he broke his ankle in 2 places, something that would eventually require surgery. James would obviously be taking time off to heal, and not much was really known until 2 months later on March 18th of 2019.
I am going to be leaving Cow Chop.
James would upload a video to his YouTube channel announcing that he was leaving Cow Chop. On top of dealing with the mental stress of being in the public eye and the chaotic atmosphere of Cow Chop, and even living in LA was a very stressful thing for him. Something that really upset him was when Joe left, because, you know, Joe was his childhood friend. Like, he knew him super well, and when he was leaving, he just didn't really want to do it anymore. James kind of decided that he was going to slowly leave Cow Chop, like wean his way out of the group, and he would even start preparing and planning for Trevor to take over his position. But Trevor clearly wasn't interested because he would end up leaving shortly after Joe. Now, I gotta shift here for a second because you may be asking, like, why wouldn't Trevor want to do that? It sounds like a great opportunity. Well, because Trevor didn't actually enjoy being at Cow Chop. Out of respect for Trevor, I really don't want to dredge on this whole situation too much, because apparently he really just doesn't like this being brought up and talked about. He doesn't like dealing with the whole Cow Chop shit. But way after Trevor even left Cow Chop, all the way in 2022, he released a TwitLonger explaining what his experience was like at Cow Chop. He said it was overall very stressful and he felt like a punching bag, something that I brought up earlier. He also mentions that there was a lot of off-screen drama between the 3 managers, Alex, James, and Brett. In fact, he was so depressed during that time that he started coping with alcohol and even developed body image issues because of how often his weight was made fun of. And obviously learning this crushed me because Cow Chop was super important to me. And Trevor was awesome. Everyone loved Trevor, like I said earlier. And to find out that Trevor didn't have nearly as much fun as we thought he did or we did was devastating. And while he did have good moments, and obviously it was helpful for him and gave him a career, you know, it was a really hard time for him. Like I said, out of respect for Trevor, I really don't want to dwell on it and get too in depth. But as of recording this video, Brett, James, and Alex all reached out to him and were like, hey man, we're sorry, we didn't realize. And it's all in the past. Trevor's good, they're all good. He just wants to move away from it. And Trevor's doing great now, by the way. He's been editing, you know, all over the place. You've definitely seen some videos of him editing. He worked with OTK for a while. He recently was let go, but it looks like he's actually going to be working with Schlatt and Super Mega, according to his Twitter account at least. So that's really awesome. Trevor, if you're watching this, I mean, you're probably not, but if you are watching this, you're a talented dude, you're a handsome dude. We're all rooting for you, buddy. Anyways, back to Cow Chop. James leaving was the kill shot to Cow Chop. And while there may have been hope that the channel could continue, I mean, maybe Brett could take over for James, and that would have been, you know, really great content, it was never meant to be that way. Because on that same day, Alex would also release a video on the Cow Chop channel, pretty much saying, hey, we have some contractual obligations that we need to fulfill, and once those are all done, so are we. So here's what's fucked up about the fall of Cow Chop and makes it so much different from any other channel that died out, is that the channel ended effectively when James left, but it was still kept on life support for months and months afterwards. And, you know, as a result, the entire atmosphere of the channel and the videos shifted. A lot of jokes would be made during these videos where they'd be like, oh, we're gonna be homeless soon, we're losing our jobs, I'm so depressed, which was like this weird meta irony because, like, I recognize them as jokes, but they aren't really jokes. But at the same time, that's why it's funny, and I'm glad they're making them because it would probably be worse if they didn't. And I just want to make it clear, just because the channel was like killed off doesn't mean the content was bad. And that's actually what's so fucking awesome about Cow Chop, is that the content, even during this ending stage, was really fucking good. And it's great because people like Jacob and Alec and Lindsay and Brett, and I mean, I don't even have to list them, everybody stepped up and really played their role well. And they made great videos. I mean, my favorite series from Cow Chop was Food Lab and Test Kitchen, and James only appeared in like a handful of those videos. Everyone powered through it, and it wasn't even about making content and fulfilling the contractual obligations that they had. They still tried to make the best content that they could, and I appreciate them so much for that because it showed that they appreciated us too. Anyways, by the end of the road, many people had left. Cow Chop was a shell of what it originally was, but they still made sure to go out with a bang and make one final great video, uploaded on December 31st of 2019. This video was a callback to their first like real video, other than the announcement video, of course, where they did this like Forbes success story type thing, and they kind of did the same thing for this video. And after that, we would never see any content from Cow Chop ever again. I'm not going to go into detail about like where everyone went. I mean, right now James is focused on his streaming career. Brett most recently appeared in the Creator Clash twice, actually, which is really cool to see him there. Like I said, Trevor's got stuff lined up with Super Mega and Schlatt, and Alex actually has been streaming for a while, but he recently just uploaded on his YouTube channel for the first time in years, which I was super stoked to see. Like, it's genuinely awesome to see Alex get back into doing YouTube content because I really miss that stuff and miss seeing him in that kind of format. So I'm excited to see what else he has. And ultimately, that's it. The rise, the fall, and crash of Cow Chop. I wanted to make this video because Cow Chop just means so much to me. It's genuinely probably my favorite YouTube channel ever. And making this video was the third time I went through their content, and let me tell you, holy fuck, that ending, man, it always gets to me. I can't help but cry when I watch it. And overall, this video was just like a very emotional experience for me to do. I laughed a lot, I cried a few times. I'm surprised I didn't cry recording this video, and ultimately, I didn't want to make this video just to tell the story. I mean, it is something that I wanted to do, but I just know so many people who loved Cow Chop, and I wanted to just spread the word of Cow Chop a little bit. They deserved to hit 1 million subscribers, and they deserve to be remembered as one of the best YouTube channels in the mid-2010s. So if you used to watch them, well, here's your reminder to go back. And if you never heard of Cow Chop before, now you have. You're welcome. Hey, look at me. I'm doing the bit. I'm doing the bit in front of the green screen where I tell you to check out videos that I made. Also, give me fucking money, okay? Because this video might not get monetized. I have no clue. If it has ads on it, pretend that you didn't see them and give me some money. Also, remember, leave a comment down below. Would I survive in the hood? Not up for me to decide. I think I would.